Welcome into another edition of Inside Carolina Live's Postgame. I'm Tommy Ashley. That's Dewey Burke, sponsored by Johnny T-Shirt and Congruity. Dewey Burke joining. A little early out there in the I guess in the mountain region for Dewey, but props for him to get this game watched and get on here with us. And shout out to the 260 plus people that are already in the chat. 65-55 Dewey. And I'll say probably the most impressive North Carolina defensive performance I've seen in a good while, holding the Tigers scoreless over the last 5 minutes to do it. Your overall thoughts?
Yeah, it's a gutty win. I was really paying close attention under that 4-minute timeout to see how our defensive possessions were and if we could stack really good defensive possessions over and over. And even the foul they called on Mondo, which ultimately PJ Ryan missed the free throws anyway, but even that I thought was a pretty good possession defensively. So I was really happy with the way they guarded there down the stretch when it was a one possession game. And that was more of a fight than a game. 65-55 was like watching an old Big East game, from when I was growing up. We won the rebound battle, shot a little bit better than them. I thought Armando, maybe the best he's been all year. He took the challenge, against PJ Hall, and I thought rose to the occasion and was great. Was closer to the old Armando, as we've been saying. So great road win, gutty. Love to go down there and start the weekend with a win.
Let's stay here and talk about Bacot. I mean, he's been guaranteed 14, 15, and 10 or 11, seems like his entire career. But I thought, to your point today, against P.J. Hall and Shefflin, who that kid can play. I mean, that kid is a classic YMCA kick your ass player. But Bacot to go up against those two and have the game he did, 14 and 16, had 6 for 11, had a few fouls. The 3 assists I thought were sharp from Bacot. Just sort of speak to his ability to deal with the double teams. He looked a lot better doing that today than he has in the past. Maybe some growth there for the big man.
He did, and it wasn't out of a double team, but made a great assist to RJ on the little UCLA cut back door there late for the layup, which was really nice. I thought he was just a little more patient, less frustrated, because he still had a couple possessions early in the first half where he didn't finish around the rim, and that has tended to frustrate him and knock him off his game. I thought he stayed patient and was great on the glass, defensive glass. We need him to be a presence. Tonight was a game where I thought the length and size of Clemson's guards bothered RJ, and they were very focused on him, obviously, and with reason, the way he's been playing. And so we needed others to step up. We got good contributions really all around. Even though Harrison didn't shoot it great, I thought he played solid. Love for Elliott to be more aggressive. We can talk about that. But Cormac made some timely shots. And Jalen, I thought, played well off the bench. We got contributions in a low-scoring game. When you get whatever to end up being 12, 13-ish points off your bench, if you only score 65, that's actually a pretty solid contribution. So these guys have been together all year, emotionally together, and now their play is starting to back that up. I think they're playing harder and more connected defensively. We are still switching, but not nearly as much, which is something we can also talk about. It's less frequent, which I'm a fan of. It was a good team win. It's not easy to go down there. That's a funky place to play. It can be really loud, and I was proud of them. I thought they played great.
Yeah, let's talk about Harrison Ingram, and we're talking with Dewey Burke here on Inside Carolina Postgame. Carolina 65-55. I didn't get you, and I hope you're still there. I lost your picture.
Yeah.
There you are.
No,
I didn't get to talk to you after the game the other night where Harrison couldn't throw it in the ocean, but still managed to be a big part of the game. And that's something we talked about over the years with guys, that if they weren't shooting well, they were non-factors and they checked out. Ingram seems to be the opposite of that. He had another game tonight, 3 for 10, but he made some key plays. He had some what's going on Harrison plays as well, but just speak to that aspect of this young man's game, that it's not all about scoring for him. It's not all about me for him, and that's giant for this team especially.
It is very emotionally invested in the success of our team, is what you would say about him. He cares a great deal. He wears it. You can see it on his face. Um, and yeah, even though he shot 3 for 10, the 2 for 5 from three, both of those were big buckets. The one he hit in the first half when I think Clemson had just hit a three, we came right back and he ripped one, and then the one in the second half. So his 2 threes were big. Um, he's around the ball a lot. He makes some turnovers that have you scratching your head, which is what you're referencing. But very invested. He plays hard. He had trouble with however you say his last name, Schefflin, just a size mismatch, and Clemson continued to go to that. But you're never going to question his effort and his want to. And to your point, even if he's having a poor night offensively, his effort is still there, which we struggled with some guys in the past couple of years that we didn't always say the same thing. So again, I think they're together, Tommy. I think emotionally they are connected, which we did not have all the time last year, and that makes up for a lot when you're having a scrap claw fight game like this in the huddle. When you're truly together, it's meaningful.
Yeah, and not only emotionally and mentally, I think they're together in sync on the court better. It's like they know where they're supposed to be. They know where each other's going to be, which I think that was an issue the last few years is, if guys aren't where they're supposed to be and you're expecting them to be there, it just throws everything off. Drew in the chat mentioned, and I thought this is an important pickup, and it tells you who watches these games with a keen eye on it, that Ingram drug Schefflin out and pump faked him so they could get that lane open a little bit because Bacot could handle one of the two, but he was having struggles with the two.
Sure.
Speak to the offensive flow with Elliot Cadeau. And Elliot, and you mentioned him earlier, he needs to be more aggressive, but he also needs to lay off on the cheap fouls. He seems like he gets a lot of fouls walking under somebody, when they're up in the air, things like that. Just speak to the progression and the growth of a UNC point guard and what you've seen from him, because it has been a struggle at times. He's been really good at times as well.
Yeah, freshmen pick up fouls like that. I mean, saw Zayden High got one too there in the corner, just unnecessary. Freshmen, because they want to be so impactful that they tend to make mental mistakes that they'll learn from. I think he moves the ball great. When he is aggressive and gets to the rim, typically good things happen. He's just not looking to do that enough for me, because so much focus is going to be on RJ. And when Elliott's out front, orchestrating and waiting for RJ to come off a pin down or whatever action we're running for him or Cormac, or trying to run some motion to get the ball in the post to Armando. The last possession of the first half, you could see Brad Brownell pushing his guard off of Cadeau. He was maybe 5 feet outside the three-point line with the ball. The defender was on the three-point line. He was backing him. He's like, he's not going to do anything. Just back up. And so it's starting to show on tape that his lack of aggression is making him not a threat. So I don't think it's lack of effort. I don't think it's lack of want to. I just think that he needs to realize that being so passive is actually a negative. Even though he has this reputation as a pass first point guard and shares the ball and wants to make the extra pass, being so passive is actually can bog down and almost let the defense play us, 5-on-4.5 because he's not looking to be a threat. So hopefully that comes as he matures. He's so quick. He's so dynamic. We also haven't seen him do much in the open floor either, which is where you would think he could really shine. We get a stop and he gets it and just busts it and gets into the paint to create a shot for himself or others. But I think he'll get there. He's too talented not to. But a little bit more aggressiveness and being sure of himself would help.
You speak about in the open floor. I'm going to give you a stat and tell me if you've ever heard this. Fast break points for the game for both teams combined, Dewey, 0. You mentioned
Wow.
Big East basketball, but I don't think I've ever seen it.
No.
And yet Carolina's still able to get enough offense in the half court to win a ball game like this. But that's nuts, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, but it reflectively thinking about the game, that sounds right. It was slow. It was just a physical, like we keep saying, like a Big East game from my childhood, watching like UConn play St. John's or something. It felt that way. It was very physical. Hard fouls on guys driving into the paint. Not a ton of outside shots going down, certainly for them. Yeah, I can't recall us never having any fast break points really ever. But yeah, it was a physical contest where it was less and less about how pretty you could make it look or execution and just who's going to fight. And when that was one possession in that under four timeout, we found a way to stack those defensive possessions and execute a little bit better than them offensively and get it done. So the one guy we haven't mentioned who you have to note is on the floor for that entire under 4 minute stretch is Seth Trimble. He's making a ton of things happen without really worrying about scoring. Hit a big three, certainly, and you heard Corey Alexander give him credit for doing the work in the offseason. But this is a guy who gets his hand on loose balls. He defends. We have, I won't be able to give you the stats, but we have historically struggled with Girard when he was at Syracuse. He had some pretty good games against us, and we made his life miserable tonight. 1 for 10 and 0 for 4 from three for a guy who I think was averaging about 16 a game and is certainly a good shooter. So I think Seth Trimble is doing a lot for this team that it's not going unnoticed, but it needs to be appreciated.
Yeah, definitely Trimble. And you talk about stacking defensive possessions. Trimble continues to stack performances game to game to game to game. And it's a guy that, quite frankly, was forgotten a lot last year. And he's become a major part of this. And I said it earlier, maybe last podcast, especially in the light of Cadeau's process of growth and struggles and things like that. Trimble has become a guy that can sort of help that. And Cadeau's going to be great and has the ability to flash great, but freshman ACC point guard for North Carolina is tough, and it is not a thing. Now we talked about Cormac Ryan, and we've talked about his ability to shoot it, and he hasn't been shooting it well. He went down holding his ankle. It looked bad. He came right back in, so I'm not sure what's going on there. But if he's hitting shots, and he was only 2 for 6 from three, but they were big ones early. Just holistically, Dewey, speak to what this offense can look like if you've got RJ, if you've got Cormac, if you've got Harrison Ingram getting heated up, and then Bacot is freed up. I think it can look similar to the way that 22 offense looked when Bacot was able to dominate down low with guys on the wing shooting.
Shooting it great, yeah. Nobody's ever going to shoot it as good as Brady, but if Cormac could be a little bit more consistent, and then Elliott could be aggressive. I mean, those to me are the two keys that allow us to move to the next level on the offensive end. Because I think Mondo, although a slower start the first 13 games, I think he's going to be there. He's going to be that reliable 16 and 10, and hopefully he has some of those, as we like to say, Sean May and Bryce Johnson outings where he's 24 and 18. We'd love to see a couple of those out of him. RJ, arguably the best player in the conference right now. No, he struggled tonight, but those two guys, I think you come to feel what you're going to get. If Elliott can be more aggressive, try to get to the lane, get some stuff in transition, and Cormac can be consistent, I think our offense takes a giant step. It really does. So those are the two keys for me that I'd like to see as we develop going forward.
Yep, Carolina wins 65-55 over Clemson, goes to 3-0 in ACC. More importantly, gets the second win on this three-game opening road trip. I want to talk about playing on the road before I let you get out of here, Dewey. Playing at Pitt, which can be tough. It wasn't really that tough last week for Carolina. Clemson was a little more calm today than it normally is. Speak to going to NC State. How is that going to be on Wednesday night for this North Carolina team? They enjoy playing on the road. Roy Williams used to always talk about, and y'all's crowd used to talk about stealing brownies and stealing cookies and things like that. What's it like going to Raleigh to play against an NC State team?
Yeah, nothing like it. I mean, I don't know what time tip is, 7 Eastern or 8 Eastern, but you can go ahead and just expect it when you walk on the court 75 minutes in advance. The students are there and they're on you, and it never stops. I mean, I will never forget going over there my junior year and being floored by the stuff that those kids said to David Noel. I mean, stuff I can't repeat. Just blew my mind. I said, I can't believe this happens. And we had already been to Kentucky. We had already played, some road games, and I couldn't believe it. So it's a rowdy environment. There's no love lost. Everybody knows, and we've talked about it, how Coach Williams felt about NC State over the years, and so those memories and that locker room, winning over there a couple times, is burned in my brain. But it will be rowdy. They've got some good talent on that team. But if we go in there and guard them and can get a lead, they get so deflated when we get up on them that I feel like you can keep the crowd quiet. So we're going to have to hit shots. We're going to have to do everything. We're going to have to hit shots. We're going to have to guard. We're going to have to be together. We need Armando to be big. We need to win the glass. We need to take care of the basketball because they do have some talent. And, I still think Kevin Keatts is fighting for his job. Say what you want. These are the kind of games he has to have to continue to have an argument to keep that job. So it will be as rowdy and as tough as it comes.
Let me ask you this, and this is me personally asking because it's always something I've thought about. What's it like to be in an environment where you can't hear the guy next to you? Like, how do you play and perform in that type of environment? Cameron Indoor, you say what you want to about that crowd. It's loud in there. State, it's loud in there, and State's more angry, loud. But what's that like to be able to perform in those type situations? And then how does that being connected mentally and in sync as a team really help that?
That's the thing. You go back to what we were talking about earlier, is being emotionally connected as a unit. We always had that, and so because it is so loud, those huddles are a little tighter. It's a little bit harder to hear your coaches, but you kind of feel like you're in a bunker in some ways. And just really, really fond memories of those moments. Feeling like you're in a boxing match, and the whole arena is against you. We were so fortunate when I played to have such incredible leadership, whether it was vocal and performance like a David Noel, or just by the way he played in a Tyler Hansbrough. This is a great test for this team because it will be that. It will be hard to hear the guy next to you. It's like if you make a football reference, this is when you go silent snap count and your right guard has to tap the center to snap it because you can't hear anything. It is like that, especially if they hit a couple shots, and so in a normal environment, even today or at Pitt, Hubert can communicate with RJ or with Elliott to call a set or whatever. And it can be at times in environments like this, if you're not making eye contact and reading hand signals, you're kind of out there on your own. I remember a couple times being in road environments where coaches, believe it or not, trying to call a timeout, and the guys didn't hear him, didn't see him, and the possession just went. And so it is definitely, it'll be something Elliott Cadeau's never seen what he's about to go into. But that'll be great for him.
Yep. And Carolina, with these 2 wins on the road, 3 total in the ACC, has some leeway there, but North Carolina State's always one you want to get. Wednesday night, 8 o'clock. A couple things before we get out of here. Paxton Wojcik, big shot. Jalen Withers, a couple of big shots. I mean,
Zayden High, big shot.
Yeah, Zayden High makes a big shot. He's got to learn how to not to foul. He played, 2 minutes and had 3 fouls. But you got to love the energy. This North Carolina team is connected. This North Carolina team is getting it done, not just offensively, but I think, most importantly, defensively, holding Clemson scoreless over the last 5 to get the 65-55 win. That's Dewey Burke. We're sponsored by Johnny T-Shirt. I mentioned Congruity. Go to congruityhr.com/Tar Heels for your free small to mid-sized business assessment. Visit Johnny T-Shirt any chance you get. Dewey, it's always a pleasure, my man.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for listening.